otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and move Amy and me into the spotlight. So exciting. Hi, Amy.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me, Gwen and Sarah. So good to see
Oh,
you.
we're
It's fun
so
to hear everyone.
yes, it's so exciting to finally have you. It's been so we've been looking forward to talking about Lady Sunshine all summer. So thank you, thank
Oh,
you, thank
thank
you.
you. Me too. I'm so glad it worked out, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, Amy, before we get started, let's go ahead and have you introduce yourself to our listeners and readers and tell us how you got started writing.
Okay. So I am Amy Mason Doan. I live in Portland, Oregon, just a little south of you, in Kirkland. I, like all of you, loved books my whole life. I'm a book person. I was an English major in college, had no clue what I wanted to do. I mean, of course, always had the dream of writing fiction, always, but never really had the guts to try it. So I got into journalism. I went to journalism graduate school and worked for magazines and newspapers up and down the West Coast, mainly in California, which is where I'm from. And then I turned 40 and, I realized time was a ticking. And, turning 40, I highly recommend for getting you to do something that you've always wanted to do. And something wonderful happened to me the same year. I won this contest with my own book club in Portland, and I got to meet Judy Blume. I had entered this contest because she was doing a movie version of Tiger Eyes, the young adult book, and I'm a big Judy Blume fan, as I'm sure many of you are.
Right.
And I won this trip to LA to meet her and go to the premiere of that movie.
That is so
And
cool.
I know, I still can't believe it happened. I wrote an essay about it for the newspaper here. But she was just so lovely and so encouraging. And I kind of sheepishly told her, I've always wanted to write fiction. And she just treated me like, of course you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And, she hugged me. She's this tiny little thing and I'm pretty tall. Still remember hugging her. So
like, don't break Judy Blume.
I know, no. She's adorable, of course. And that, I came home and I just was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to finish it. I had a story in mind. That story became The Summer List, my first book. But getting into it, my only thought was, I'm going to try. I'm going to finish this so that I can be a good example to my daughter. I have a daughter who's now 15, but the time she was a bit younger. And I did. And, that was a little while ago. But I got an agent. The Summer List got published in 2018. I had another book come out in 2019. And then this one, so I remembered to bring it this time. Lady Sunshine.
Such a beautiful cover.
Yes, thank you. They, Greenhouse, Harlequin, Harper did a wonderful job. My cover designers, kind of glary, but really captures the story. So this just came out June 29th. So it's been out for a few months, and it's so exciting to just talk to readers, whether they've read it yet or not. I do enjoy it. So I think I answered your questions. That's how I got into writing, and excited about this latest book, and I'm hard at work on the next one.
Awesome. So were you always a big reader?
Yes, always. I was able to read everything. I was a shy kid. I was the girl who was indoors in California, reading. My sister.
That's why you have beautiful skin.
Oh, thank you. So that's really funny. Well, I also live in Portland where we get no sun. So, but thank you. So my big sister was the one who was outdoors with baby oil, doing the whole thing with she didn't do the tin foil thing, but she was out there sunning herself and I was indoors reading. I loved it. Always loved the escapism of it. Again, I was an English major in college. And I'm still a passionate reader. And that's the thing that I've learned 6 years into the publishing business. We're all book people, my agent, my editor, the art department, they're just all wonderful book people. And it's such a thrill to kind of be a part of it on that side.
Yeah, absolutely. Like such a cool community. And it's, it's because it is so niche and it's such a group of people who just love reading. Like it's what we all just want to talk about all the time.
Yeah.
What was the first book that you remember falling in love with?
Ooh, there's a series of books called The Shoes books by Noel Stretfield. Some people know them because they're mentioned in You've Got Mail.
It's exactly what my brain went. I was like,
yeah.
oh, yes.
And I still remember my mom brought me the first one home one day when I was sick. Well, she brought home Ballet Shoes. I don't know if that was the first in the series. And I just devoured it. They're set in England, and it involves children who work at a theater and a dance troupe or company. And it was just so fascinating to me. And Ballet Shoes also has like Shakespeare in it because the girls act in Midsummer Night's Dream, I think it was. So that got me interested in Shakespeare, and probably the whole reason I'm a writer. You know, I started traveling up to Ashland, Oregon, to the Shakespeare Festival that we have here. And yeah, it all goes back to Ballet Shoes.
That's so
they're
cool.
So great. Yeah, they're wonderful books.
Well, now I have to know what your favorite Shakespearean play is.
I think it is A Midsummer Night's Dream. But my daughter's name is Miranda, so I do have a thing for The Tempest, clearly. I tend to lean more towards the comedies. But yeah, big Shakespeare buff. It's been a while since I really read the plays, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have not read them since probably college, but there's so many adaptations coming out in the next like year or so too.
Yes, I think what's the big one that's coming out soon with is it Emma Thompson or?
Yeah, I know that there's the Lady Macbeth one with Denzel Washington and what's her name? Frances McDormand.
That's it. That's what I'm thinking of. So gotta see that.
Looks great. So let's dig into Lady Sunshine. What inspired the book for you, since it is your third? It's very different than your other ones. So let's kind of dig into what inspired.
It is. I mean, it's similar in that all of my books have secrets and they're about women kind of confronting their pasts, but it's different in that it's considered historical fiction, which is something I wasn't even aware of. I mean, I guess I'm just old. I didn't know because this book is set in 1979 and 1999. And it's about a woman who inherits this house. So in 1999, she's in her 30s, and this woman named Jackie inherits this house. And then we flash back to 1979 for kind of half the book. And we see that she spent this pivotal summer there with her cousin and her uncle, who's a folk musician, and all these free spirits who lived there, and secrets are unearthed. And so I didn't realize that 79 was considered historical, but it is. Even the 80s now, that's considered historical.
I was gonna say even 99 was probably considered historical too.
Well, and my other books do have some threads that are in the 90s. So they're kind of on the cusp, but exactly. To me, I think my brand is kind of nostalgia. My books always have a bit of nostalgia to them. That's what I love. But the inspiration for this book, if I'm really honest, is a CD. And I actually have it.
Oh, yes. Tell us about this.
There's an essay about this in the back of the book, but I don't know if you can see. Glare again, but you can see it's called Mermaid Avenue.
Yep.
And this is a CD from the 90s that I loved. This is actually Woody Guthrie lyrics that were set to music after his death. His daughter found this treasure trove of his lyrics, famous American folk singer. And his lyrics are just like poetry. And she thought they shouldn't, they shouldn't be buried. They should come to life. And so she partnered up with some modern musicians, Wilco and Billy Bragg, and made this album. And I loved the album in the 90s, long before I started writing fiction. And that became the seed of the story, of part of this story, because in Lady Sunshine, there is a tribute album to Jackie's uncle based on his unpublished lyrics.
Right.
And so it's hard to talk about the book without giving too much away, but those lyrics hide secrets. And through the lyrics, not only does the place and this project that's happening, not only does the place kind of come to life again, this beautiful estate in California where Jackie had spent that summer, but she realizes that what she thought happened that summer 20 years before may not be what happened. I don't think that gives away too much. So, but it all started with this, with all of my novels, it starts with a little idea, like The Summer List is about a scavenger hunt between two grown women. I got that idea because I was camping and some kids ran up and asked me for a graham cracker because their parents, probably to keep them occupied, had sent them on a scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
And so it always starts with one little thing and then you build on it. You think, what if it was grown women doing a scavenger hunt? Or in Lady Sunshine, what if she inherits this house and then that's where this tribute album takes place and she kind of has to watch over it and that prolongs her stay.
Yeah.
It's a fun, mysterious process. Even when it goes right, writing, that is, it's kind of magical, terrifying, all those things.
It's fun to get lost in that, especially to like dip into the 1970s. Did you have to do any like fun research or find stories that you were like, I have to be able to sort of replicate this in the book?
Definitely. Yeah. I was alive in 1979, but I was a lot younger than Jackie is. She was almost 20. She was 18 for most of 1979 in the past thread of the book. But I remember things. I remember being scared of Skylab falling. That was the satellite. I remember the cosmetics, from looking at older kids and the music. So I really enjoyed the research for this one, especially the music. And I have all kinds of 1970s playlists. The fun thing in this book is that Jackie loves disco and her cousin Willa is into more 60s singers, more like folky singers, because that's what her father does. So I spent many, many happy hours in my hammock in my backyard here in Portland, just playing music and calling it research,
Right. Yeah.
It's a great way to procrastinate, if you're not quite sure what's happening in the story next, you can always do research.
What were some of the songs that you had to keep on the playlist that you were using while you were writing?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a playlist in the book too. I ended up doing side A for Jackie and side B for Willa because their styles and their tastes were so different.
I love that.
Let's see. Also don't want to give anything away, but Donna Summer had to be on there because there's a Donna Summer sort of scene in this book. Joni Mitchell had to be in there. Again, she's a little more 60s, but Willa loves her. Willa, Jackie's cousin, worships the women she calls the J singers. Joni Mitchell and Joan Armatrading and Joan Baez. And, she had to be on there.
I love that. Well, and it's you mentioning Jackie and Willa, like I want you to talk a little bit about developing the bond between them because they are so different and especially representing their music taste, but just as characters are so different.
Yeah. Jackie just is someone that it was very different from my other protagonists. She's a little feistier. And I do think in my other two books, the women were a bit more shy at the beginning, and Jackie is not shy. She's, especially as a teenager, she's really bold, and she's kind of the me that I wish I was at that age.
I love that.
She's fearless and strong, and she arrives at this strange place in 1979 because her rich family has kind of dumped her there. Her father's remarried, and she doesn't know what to make of it, but she's acting really tough, and but she does have a soft heart. And then Willa, her cousin, is like this fairy sprite that Jackie kind of sees in the woods with blonde hair. And she's the kind of girl who goes to the nature shed and uses perfume oil, and she's happiest outdoors. She's never watched television. So at first, the two girls really clash. And we're not so sure they're going to get along because they're so different. Again, Jackie's got a tough shell. But then when they do open up, it's an intense friendship. They're around the same age and they're both longing for a different kind of family. And for that summer in the past, they really find it in each other. So again, not to give too much away, at the end of the summer, something happens and Jackie flees and we don't know where Willa is, but they lose that beautiful, intense friendship, that golden time that they had together. The question of the book is, can Jackie somehow recapture that or a form of that as an adult and become a little bit more like the girl she used to be?
Yeah. And because there's parts of the book that just get so dark and harrowing and just heartbreaking. And I imagine for you as writing those moments, like they had to be emotionally ruinous for yourself while you were going through it.
Yeah, I'm a really visual writer. So I can see everything playing out over and over as I'm refining the scene. And there's some tough scenes in there that that I wrote with extreme care, and I wanted everything to feel really authentic, and I never want to manipulate a reader. I think that shows. And I love these characters so much. And I really, when it's going well, I can feel what they're feeling as they're seeing events unfold. And, that's the trick. So I have come to accept that it's never easy. Writing will never be easy. I'm on my fourth now. I'm drafting, or I should be drafting my fourth, kind of just starting it. And it doesn't get easier, but I think I've accepted that more. I've stopped expecting it to be easy, because it is emotionally wrenching if you're doing it, I think, with any kind of attention and skill and care. And I think that that's important to approach it that way.
Yeah. How do you unwind from a particularly emotional writing day?
Yeah, I go outside. I do a lot of my writing outdoors, actually. And during the height of COVID, I've actually posted about this on Instagram. My daughter was doing school at home, and my husband was working at home. This is my writing sanctuary, my house. I'm not used to this. I'm used to having the house quiet, just me and my cat, Leah. And they were there, and I love them dearly, but it was kind of loud. We have this creepy old 1924 house, and I could hear everyone's Zoom meetings going through the ductwork. And so I pitched a tent in my backyard and finished this book. No lie. I think I'm going to do that from now on. But if I do write indoors and I'm just drained, going outside, going for a kayak, going for a long walk just clears me, kind of brings me back into the real world.
I love
a re-entry process, I guess.
Absolutely. I love that so much. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're working on right now?
Yeah. I feel like if I talk about it too much, I kind of kill it.
Of course.
Tomorrow I'll be trying,
it'll be a different book tomorrow.
I'm like, oh, I gave the best parts away. I'm really excited about it. I'll say that. It's good. It's about a family. It's actually a mother-daughter story. And it is about a very unusual family. It's loosely based on a real family. I can't say much more than that, but I don't have a title yet, but I have a little time for that. I can just say that I love the characters, especially the mother and the daughter, so much. Secrets, mystery, there will be a little bit of romance and a road trip, all of which I love. So, and it's nostalgic, of course. More so.
What is, maybe this way, so hopefully this won't be a spoiler, but what was the little spark that inspired the story?
Yeah. Well, again, it's based on a real family. So there's that. There was a movie about this family that definitely inspired me. Okay. But it's taken on a life of its own.
Love it.
So I think that, the CD inspired Lady Sunshine, and then it took on a life of its own. Same thing. It was, I think, learning about this one family in California and thinking, wow, that is a really interesting story.
Yeah.
But the story had been told about the sons. There's this family with 9 children, and there was one daughter. And I thought, I want to tell that daughter's story.
Yes.
And so that, if anything, I would say that's the seed. That's such a good question, because I'm not used to talking about this book yet. I got to get on my toes about that. I think that's where it started. It hadn't really occurred to me until now.
Yeah, I love that. That makes me so intrigued. And now I'm like, ooh, okay, I might know what family it is, but I might not.
Yeah, that's
we'll
good
see
motivation
in a couple of years.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, Amy, this is when we enter into our fun, fresh facts question portion, where I'm just going to throw out a couple of just fun questions, answer them however you feel like.
Okay.
Ready? What is your favorite genre to read?
Right now it's historical. Maybe because I'm a newly minted historical fiction writer.
Right. I was going to say amongst your peers.
Yeah. Do you want quick answers or
Take your time. Yeah.
I'm recommending this to everyone, and I have it here.
Yeah.
Random.
Share.
Okay. So this is a really old book that was from my grandma's library. It's called All This in Heaven Too. They actually made a movie with Betty Davis and Charles Boyer. And it's based on a real governess who lived in Paris in 1850. And her employer kind of fell in love with her, and she brought down royalty. Let's just say that. And it's
Love it.
beautiful. It was written in 1930. So it's kind of a weird thing. I know I'm supposed to be holding up modern books, but if I'm being honest, this is what I just read. So right now, definitely
That's
historical fiction, Christina Baker Klein and Fiona Davis and all those great writers.
Oh, so cool. What genre do you never want to read again?
Oh, never want to, I don't know if I could say never. That's tough. Oh my gosh, that's a tough one. Never want to read again. I don't really read horror books. They're not top of my stack, I'll say that. Even in October, it's not what I grab.
I am doing, I have a weekly segment on our ABC affiliate in Dallas, and I've been doing spooky season books all month. No, it's just very funny because the anchor that I work with is the same way. He's like, I hate it. I hate this so much. And I'm like, that's why I play it up now at this point.
Yeah, I scare myself. I'll have nightmares. I was the kid who would at the slumber party, you know, when I was a teenager, I would want to watch The Shining, and then I couldn't sleep for days. And it's the same thing now. Yeah.
Well, and books are just so much scarier.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I have such an imagination, and that can be scary.
Yeah, for sure. I can do the movies, but I'm with you. I'm not as good with the books. It's too scary. It's in my head too much.
Yeah, it's in your head.
What is one new hobby or practice you've picked up recently?
Hobby or practice? Oh, I've started doing these felted animals, and I'm terrible at it. But have you ever done it? Like you make these. I am not crafty, and this is terrible because my mother was a home ec major, and my grandma was such a seamstress, and it drove them crazy that I wasn't interested. But I found it was a great stress relief. These felted animals, like you take this wool and you kind of poke it. Yeah. It sounds very violent, but
that's part of the fun.
I'm terrible at it, but it's kind of satisfying, oddly satisfying. I don't think I have a new career in felted animal making though.
Do you have a specific animal that you make, or is it just sort of like a generic animal?
No, you get these kits.
Okay.
Like, I'm sure if you get good at it, you can like freestyle, and I'm not there. I've done some cats, and there was a bird. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Please do. We want to see them. Put them on Instagram.
Shop opening up soon, I promise.
Just for fun. Just, it's for learning. Who was your first book boyfriend or girlfriend?
Ooh, first book. Oh gosh. Well, I love Mr. Darcy. I'm a big Pride and Prejudice fan, or like, oh gosh, Mr. Rochester in Jane Eyre, most likely.
I love it. What is your favorite writing fuel?
Coffee. Or do you mean something more like figurative? Are we?
No. That's great.
Coffee, and then music can get me going too.
Awesome. How do you take your coffee?
Black in the winter. In the summer, all summer, I made these amazing like do-it-yourself frappuccinos, and I got a special ice cube tray to put coffee in to make like iced coffee
yes,
with my smoothie mixer, and I got really addicted to them, and I was wired because I would put them in these huge tumblers. But now it's probably getting colder there too, right? It's starting to get cold. We got a little rain a couple days yesterday and today, so now it's black hot coffee. Yep, same. It's like down to the black tea or black coffee for me as well. What is one thing you're looking forward to this fall? I was so enjoying everyone's answers, and it was making me really hungry because a lot of them are food related. We have a lot of family traditions. My daughter and I will make soup and do more cooking and stuff like that. But the three of us, my husband Mike and my daughter Miranda and I, we always go to this pumpkin patch south of Portland. Yeah, we've been going to the same pumpkin patch for her whole life, 15 years. Yeah, and they have apple cider donuts. Oh my gosh. And they have a petting zoo, and you can do a hay ride out to where you pick out your pumpkins. So that's when I really know it's fall. Yeah. Is she still a good sport about going? Oh, she loves it. I love that. Yeah. That's so cool. We're all into tradition here. That's great. How do you celebrate a new release? Yeah. Oh, that's important. I mean, I think it is important. The first one, it was just such a whirl, and I was just scared, and talking about it was so new. So I was just a whirl, and I don't think I really took a breath until months later when I went by myself to a bookstore. and saw it and just had a
Yes.
quiet moment and didn't take a picture of it for social media, didn't do anything, just saw it there.
Yeah.
So I think seeing the book, like making a little pilgrimage to a library or a bookstore and seeing it there and kind of just stepping back and realizing like you've accomplished something that you wanted to do when you were a girl. I think that's really important because you kind of lose sight of all that, you know, in the
Yeah.
whirl of a book launch. But now I do that every time. I make a point of doing that.
I love that. I agree. It's incredibly important to honor and celebrate your accomplishments because
Yeah.
it is so hard, and authors do something that so many people just can't do, which is finish something and get it into people's hands.
Yeah, it's special and it's an honor. I mean, it really, I said I take it seriously. To me, I really do mean this. The fact that someone is going to spend 5 or 6 hours with these stories that I made up in my head, I love that. And it's a real responsibility. And I don't think I'll ever take that for granted.
I love that.
So,
That's great. What is some advice you would give to your younger self?
oh, gosh, just worry less.
Yeah.
I was such, I was a bookish girl, very sensitive and worried about all kinds of stuff that never happened, and it's easier said than done, I know, but that's definitely my number one.
Yeah, it's a good reminder, I think. With whom would you want to be stuck in an elevator?
Ooh, who would, well, gosh. Someone funny. If we're stuck in there for a long time, someone just who makes me laugh, like Samantha Bee or, oh gosh, who else is really funny? A comedian, just any comedian who could get my mind off it. Cause I think I would be really scared. I'm a little claustrophobic.
Oh yeah, someone who could just kind of coach you through it.
Coach me through it. Yeah.
I always think I want Tom Hanks's character in You've Got Mail because he was so good in coaching people through that scene when they got stuck in the elevator.
Yeah, and he was listening, and then Parker Posey was so shallow and upset because she couldn't find her Tic Tacs, and he was like bearing her soul. He's a good one. Okay, so maybe I'll a comic and Tom Hanks. He'd be
perfect. It'd be perfect. Yeah. Sounds great. Sounds like you're like, I'm never leaving the elevator. No. So as a newly minted historical author, what you are going to be very well versed in answering this question. What era do you think you'd want to live in if you couldn't live in the modern era?
Oh yeah. It's hard as a woman to say that you'd want to go back, because I don't know if I could go back to the 50s or even before that. I really do like my freedoms and my choices,
Absolutely.
There's so much progress has been made, but this is going to sound sappy. I wouldn't mind going back to the 80s. My father is no longer alive, so I would love to go back and like hang out with my family and kind of savor that in the 80s as just one more time.
Yeah. Oh, I love that answer. That's wonderful, Amy.
Thank you.
Who is your dream writer collaboration if you could write with somebody else?
Oh gosh. My dream. There's so many people that I love. I am going to say like Lily King, who wrote Writers and Lovers. I loved that book. I've given that to so many people and said like, here, you can understand what I do now. I admire so many people. Or Pat Conroy, who's no longer alive. I'm a huge Pat Conroy fan and spent a lot of time in South Carolina. So I love those low country books, and I would love it if he could come back and I could just pick his brain a little and just tell him how much he means to me.
I love that. It's a great answer. All right. So our last question, can you tell us about your writing day?
It's all over the place, like especially right now, because I'm really still getting into the groove of what I'm calling Untitled thing number 4.
Very great title.
Title ideas, and I'll make it work. I'm serious. Like I'll figure it out. You have a good title idea. But I write in the morning. I really do. I have this saying like right before the fear sets in, and I think that's really important, kind of right before you start second guessing everything. So that's when I'm drafting, early morning drafting. I'm lucky enough to write full time. I'm not really doing any journalism right now. And then in the afternoons are for smaller tasks or like big picture plotting and things like that. Then later on in the process, I'll be writing like 14 hours a day when I'm really working with my editor, Melanie, and that's months off. going, and a lot of just staring into space and thinking of ideas. It would probably look very boring and unromantic, but you have to spend time just thinking, what if, what are my characters going to do, and what would they do in this situation, and how does so-and-so's voice sound? And I personally can only do that just being alone and quiet.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, before I turn this over to our readers to ask you some follow-up questions, how can readers stay in touch with you and find out more about you?
Yeah, my email is on my website. My website's amymasondoan.com, and the email's there. It's amymasondoanauthor@gmail.com. Always reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter. I have a Facebook page, but I don't go on Facebook all that much. So I read every message. I love it. Especially when I'm writing, I may not answer right away, but I love those notes. And so I welcome them. If you're inclined to send me a note, please do.
Awesome. Well, Amy, thank you so much. This has been so much fun
you.
getting to chat with you. I'm excited for our readers. They've got a bunch of questions in the chat. So thank you.
Okay. Happy fall.